evening, you sexy motherfuckers. Welcome to this week's episode of Video Ferox. It's a bonus episode for Thesis Month because I fucked up and didn't realize that there are 5 weeks in this month, not 4. So we're going to be watching the absolute stone cold motherfucking classic from Canon Films, Runaway Train. So let's roll over this motherfucker and roll the trailer.
First there's God, then the warden, then my guards, then the dogs out there in the kennel, and finally you, pieces of human waste.
I'm going. You coming?
The most startling journey you'll ever take
Don't kill me. Let me do it.
has just begun.
Oh, smile, man, we're free.
We make a hell of a team, don't we, man?
I don't know nothing from nothing. Being around me is really stupid. I'm at war with the world, everybody in it.
I don't know what happened, but there's no engineer on this train. There's nobody on this train but us.
The brake shoes have burned off, the overspeed control must have gotten screwed up, and the engineers do not just quote.
You want to be a tough guy? You want to be a legend? Go back! Sucker, come on!
Let's have some fun.
You want to shoot me? Shoot me! Shoot the kid! Come on, you
Don't
gutless
care
guy!
about him!
I'll kill you, man.
You die, sucker!
Don't make me kill you.
At stake is their spirit, their freedom, and their lives. Jon Voight, Eric Roberts, Rebecca de Mornay. Runaway Train. A film by Andrei Konchalovsky.
Alrighty, that was the trailer to Runaway Train, the last movie that we have in Thesis Month.
So, out of curiosity, are you using the original trailer or are you using the anniversary trailer?
The original trailer, probably,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
The one with the really awesome music from Life Force.
Yeah, they did use actual, like, classical music in places, and it was very well, it works very well, especially with the tone of Shakespeare that occasionally creeps in occasionally with some of the scenes, which is the reason why I like this film.
So I guess that answers my question of Ian, did you like Runaway Train?
No, I hated it.
Okay.
No, this is a great film.
If we had not been doing Video Ferox and like just a random potpourri of whatever bullshit is on the shelf at the time, this would have been the Canon Films show, because I fucking adore Canon Films. They are my bread and butter growing up in the 80s. All the action movies, all the breakdancing movies, all the stupid what the fuck movies.
Yes. No, I agree with you. This movie, however, is like totally out of left field.
Not exactly. Well, it is totally out of left field, but Canon did a lot of art house films also. They did Poyanaskotsky, they did Love Streams with the John Cassavetes, they did Barfly. They've done a bunch of not Charles Bronson shooting motherfuckers movies.
Yes. Well, there is one thing that was a little different with this film compared to others, is that at the time frame, it was internally marketed the hell out of. They were calling all of the production studios, the inside people, and going, have you seen this film? And if the answer was no, I'll send a copy right over. They didn't ask people to go, oh, if you got a moment, go see the film. No, he had a whole bunch of copies of the film and he sent them to everybody. He wanted everybody to see it.
And that is 100% in Menachem Golan's wheelhouse, because he is completely P.T. Barnum. He is more about the selling the sizzle than selling the steak.
Yeah.
In this case, we also happen to get steak and sizzle.
Jon Voight is awesome in this. Eric Roberts is awesome in this. Rebecca De Mornay, awesome in this.
All right, fuck it. We love it. I love it. He loves it. Let's just move on to the spoiler section because we got a hell of a lot to talk about, motherfuckers. Spoiler ahoy!
Yes.
To serve men, it's a cookbook.
All right, so full-on spoilers from this point on. So Runaway Train is essentially a disaster movie-ish, an 80s action movie-ish, but it's also this introspective character study written by fucking Akira Kurosawa.
Which?
Actually, my bad. It was a screenplay originally done by. He didn't actually write the script.
The bulk of everything that happens on the trains is still his writing. Ed... what the heck is that guy's name? He's in the movie.
Oh, yeah, he's the bald guy.
He's the bald guy shaving his head.
Yeah, he was an actual convict that they brought on to punch up the script and say, hey, let's make this as authentic as we can.
Basically what it is he took the 300-page script of Akira Kurosawa.
Because Kurosawa loves to talk.
He loves to talk. And he got it down to 98 pages.
So the story is you have Manny and Buck. And these are these two inmates in this absolute maximum security prison up in Alaska. And I mean, we're not talking like Anchorage. We're talking like way the fuck out in the middle of nowhere, Alaska.
Yes.
And Manny has been locked in solitary for 3 years. And not just locked in like as in they shut the door and lock it and stuff. No, they fucking welded him in there.
Yes.
So the ACLU says, hey, you can't do that shit, man. And so they got an order to get him out. And the second Manny hits the ground, he's like, fuck you, warden, pew, and over the wall he goes. He takes Buck with him. Well, no, Buck wants to come along with him. And so he kind of inserts himself into the escape narrative. And Manny's like, oh, fuck it, all right, fine, come on, let's go. And so they wind up trudging through the Alaskan wilderness for, a couple of hours. It's windy, it's snowy, they're like lost, and Manny ain't got, Buck ain't got shoes. They get to this rail yard, grab some shoes, grab some clothes, and they hitch a train to freedom. Unfortunately, spoiler from the title, it's a runaway train, and they're out of control.
Yes.
And that's pretty much the nutshell of the movie. The movie is essentially this character study of the dynamic between Manny and Buck, and then eventually Rebecca De Mornay shows up about an hour and 10 into the movie. She's a pretty late addition. And she's this injection of humanity into the story that has been up to this point been dominated by pretty much assholes. Even the warden's psychotic.
They're at the penultimate train from the front. And they can't get, there's 4 engines. They can't get from the second engine to the first engine because the age difference in the locomotives.
Number 2 engine is the one with the rounded nose, the old Super Chief style.
Yeah.
And you just can't climb over that because A, there's nowhere to hang on to, and B, it's icy as fuck because it's the middle of winter in Alaska.
Yeah. You see this moment. It's the look on Manny's eyes. And because earlier when where he's being who he is, Sarah says, "You're an animal." And he goes, "No, I'm not an animal. I'm human."
And the way he delivers it is slow. He's not yelling it. He's like, "I'm human."
Yeah. He's basically showing that human beings are easily, hands down, can be the evilest. Just out of everything.
And yet, so here is Manny, this absolute reprehensible monster, this entire movie long. And yet he still has these moments of humanity. He's kind to Sarah. And at the very end, after the warden is chasing him this whole time and manages to get onto the train via helicopter, and Manny manages to jump him and get him and handcuff him to the train. And they're like 2 or 3 minutes away from the train running out of track and blowing up. So he goes back to the back of the train and uncouples the coupler. And then gets on top of the train, and it's going off into the distance, and it just kind of is obscured by fog, and they throw over some text from Shakespeare.
It's Richard III.
Richard III. And so the final shot is over this quote from Shakespeare: "No beast so fierce but knows the touch of pity. But I know none, therefore I am no beast." So that's kind of he's monstrous, but he's still kind of, at the end, he's still human.
He's got the warden where he wants him. The warden's going to die with him. And he's like, wait. And the warden even points out, what about the other two? He's like, you're right. I can't kill them. They're not here for this reason. So he uncouples it. Now here's a bit in the movie I freaking flinch every single time I see this movie.
Let me guess. The Hand.
Yes. Manny has fallen under the train. He's underneath the coupler above him, and he puts his hand up, and the coupler leaves a gap for him to get his fingers in, and then it takes his fingers off.
Let's talk about the stunt work in this thing, because the stunt work is fucking insane.
It is insane. Eric Roberts, prior to being in this film, actually had established and is a member of the Hollywood Stuntman's Association. He is technically a stuntman. And they asked him, it's the sewer sliding down the pipe into the river. They said, so did you want to do that? And he's like, fuck no.
Okay, think about a train. You know, this massive, the size of the Empire State Building, moving 60, 70, 100 miles an hour, millions of tons of inertia. This thing does not move, it does not yield, it does not do anything. If you're a stuntman and a stunt fucks up, you're done. So the dude who is hanging underneath the train, because they had a shot of Manny hanging on under the train, there was a real dude under a real train doing 60 miles an hour. That's fucking insane. And the movie is full of these sort of stunts.
If it's a wide shot, it's on a 40-mile spur in Alaska off of Anchorage. Basically, it was two sets of tracks, 40 miles, and it was theirs. They could go back and forth on it all day long doing whatever they wanted, and that's how they got all of the wide shots for the trains. All of the tight close-ups, exterior, are on a CBS soundstage. And you can't tell the difference. They did it that well.
This movie is fucking gorgeous. It is so relentlessly cold. I mean, it is just this... You just feel the chill everywhere. I mean, the opening with the titles and the red train and it's like a demon train, that's freaky as fuck. And then they get into the prison and it's this dark and gritty and cold and oppressive and there's a riot going on, there's flame coming down. And then you get outside and the movie, once it's outside, almost plays like a black and white film where it's just this, you've got the black of the train, you've got the black of like these windblown trees and like the jagged rocks and this white expanse and like the final shot of Jon Voight and the train going off into the distance, just this fog rolls in, this wall of fog. The cinematography for the thing is fucking gorgeous.
When it came to all of the exterior stuff that was actually shot in Anchorage, and they were there for approximately 5 weeks, they are in an area where there is no sunset. The light level is the same 24 hours a day. And Eric Roberts was commenting that after 3 or 4 days, you're like, and it added to the harshness of the reality for him.
Okay, so we've been absolutely jizzing over the movie this entire episode long. There is one weak point of the movie that I'm going to have to point out. I'm not really a fan of the cutting back to the control room nonsense. So here they are, they're trying to figure out how to stop the train, how to get off the train. Oh, we've got to go attack the couplers and knock out the brake line so the train slows down and we can jump off, that sort of thing. And then we've got bits with like the warden and he's doing like, okay, how am I going to chase these motherfuckers? I'm in a helicopter, I'm scanning the landscape. And then they keep cutting back to the control room of the locomotive owners, the business. And they're doing the typical staring at lighted boards. How do we stop the train? Oh my God, it's now heading towards a chemical plant. It's now, what the hell are we going to do? If you had dropped that, I think it would have been a perfect movie.
They're looking at the whole thing of character study as being more than just 3 people. They wanted more. So, okay, we're going to derail the train. There's nobody on it. It turns out there's 1 person on it. Oh, well, we can't derail the train. Oh, it turns out there's 3 people on it. Oh, no, we still can't derail the train. The train's barreling down the tracks and it's headed towards a curve where there's this massive chemical plant. Oh no, this thing's going faster than the curve can handle. It's going to derail. It's going to take out the chemical plant. Toxic disaster.
So the needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many.
And so that prompts another argument, and it's like, no, this one's really easy to answer. We're going to derail the train. And they commit. They commit. That train is diverted onto a dead end.
I guess my beef is not so much that the scenes exist. And you're right, they kind of need to be there to amp up the thing and focus what's going on. I wish it had just been handled a little bit better because it's an awful lot of shouty info dump.
I noticed in places it actually is a pace breaker. There's a pacing to the editing and the storytelling with what's happening on the train. And then there's this record needle scratch.
Meanwhile, back in control.
Exactly. Then you're back in the control room. And it's like...
Although I did like when the warden, in fact, gave comeuppance to the tech nerd by basically giving a swirly.
Oh, he gets a swirly. And it's really funny is after he's done it, the kid's backed up against the wall. And the warden goes up, paper towel, wipe the piss off your face.
Oh, and we need to point out, amongst all this other acting, so we've got Rebecca De Mornay and Eric Roberts and all these other big name stars that you'll absolutely know. This movie was in fact the first movie for Danny Trejo
and Tiny Lister.
Oh, Tiny Lister, yes.
Tiny Lister plays a prison guard who is on the young and naive side. When you see him, it's like, oh my God, he's so thin. There's no muscle to him. He's just this young black kid. But you can see this is the guy who's going to go on to being, I think my favorite role of his is in Fifth Element where he's the president.
Yeah.
It's totally out of the characters that he's played preceding it. And he's all, I'm the president.
They basically have essentially a cameo if they were famous, but Danny Trejo's the other guy that is in the boxing match at the very beginning of the movie. That's the extent of his role.
Oh my God, I think I said this the other day. I'm going to say it again. Did I say it to you? There's a recent interview. I saw it in passing, where he's talking about an interview from earlier in his career, where Danny Trejo gets asked by a journalist about if he's worried about being stereotyped as a Chicano with tattoos. And he's like, why would I be worried about being stereotyped as a Chicano with tattoos? I am a Chicano with tattoos. What am I worried about? What? Yeah, and you get to see him before the boxing match. It's when the initial riot has started, where the news has made it apparent that Manny gets to get out of his holding cell, and all of the prisoners are having their and there's a bit where it shows this guy shattering windows from the camera views from outside the building, and this guy is shattering windows. That's Danny Trejo. So you get to see him just a little bit more than just in the ring.
But it's still not a lot in the movie.
One of the things that Eric Roberts comments about in regards to the trains is that is one of the biggest, that's the largest facet of the movie is the sound.
Every piece of machinery that moves, like when they switch the switches, this is massive ka-chunk. Everything feels meaty and heavy and just big. There's this one scene as the train is going into the tunnel right before it crashes. And it's this close-up, you're down close to the ground, and the wheel's right in front of your face, and it sounds like this roar, this monster, this Godzilla.
It really has that moment of, that's not the sound of machinery. That's something alive.
Yes.
That's the feeling that's given.
And all throughout, as the train has been evolving, it started out looking like a normal, okay, it's a black train with no markings, no livery on it, so it's a little unusual, but as the story progresses and it keeps running into things and blowing things up and whatnot, it gets more and more thrashed at the beginning. So at the end of the movie, it's like Jaws. Not Jaws like the shark, but Jaws like a monster.
Oh, yeah.
It's just really effective. It's almost a fourth character.
The train is important. It's not just the people on it, the train.
And the train's also a metaphor for Manny and his desire to escape, but more than just, I'm a prison break dude, I'm getting away on a train. It's more of a, he is in a new cage. He's left his old cage. He is now in this new cage. And his desire for freedom, he can only find through death. So him riding off into the sunset, essentially, is his last great escape.
Yeah. Rebecca De Mornay's first day at work. She's been to wardrobe. She's been to makeup. She comes out. The director is a personal friend of Jon Voight. The guy got his visa for the United States with help from Jon Voight years before this. So the director and Jon Voight are buddies. But then he's this Russian. He's Russian or Slavic. He's Eastern European kind of guy.
All right.
And Rebecca De Mornay comes out, hi, I'm here. I'm in costume, makeup, and the director looks at her and goes, "You are gorgeous. You're beautiful." I mean, he starts off just singing praise that she's just freaking looks fantastic. And he's like, "What? No.
You're supposed to be working on a train.
No. You're supposed to look like a ragamuffin. No. You're supposed to be ugly. No." Apparently, she breaks down in tears. She's crying. She scuttles off back to makeup. They do a real subtle, enough that to make the camera happy. She comes back and he's like, "Now you look right. You look like a ragamuffin."
And the thing is, she still looks pretty throughout the movie. She's still fine.
She maintains one thing about her, and that's the little heart-shaped earrings.
I noticed those.
Yeah, they got these. They're sizable.
All right, I think you've got an idea of what the hell we think about the movie. Ian, you got any final thoughts, or we just wrap this thing up?
Final thoughts. I personally believe that Akira Kurosawa doesn't get enough credit. I really don't think he gets enough.
Certainly not on this show.
He has big. I mean, his name is big. I mean, at the beginning. It's at the very beginning of the film. Oh, I guess that is something else I would like to touch upon at the beginning of the film. So, at the very beginning of the film, you get a list of the actors who are in the film, who the story is written by Akira Kurosawa, who's the director, and all of that. You want to know what's missing in all of the opening titles?
Who?
Jon Voight, Eric Roberts, and Rebecca De Mornay.
I didn't notice that.
Their names do not appear anywhere in the opening titles of the film. At all.
Yeah.
They're the main characters, aside from the train, because they're the ones that we find ourselves invested in, because they're the ones that are potentially going to die. And their names aren't in the opening titles of the movie at all.
So yes, it makes me insanely happy that we're talking about an Akira Kurosawa movie, and next week we've got a Bruno Mattei movie. Oh, what the hell am I thinking?
Akira Kurosawa had made his first color film.
Right.
His very first one. It's back in the early 60s. And he wanted to do another one. So he got together with an American and based the story Runaway Train on an actual real event of a runaway train in New York State. but couldn't get anybody interested enough to spend the money to make it. And this is back in the mid-60s when this script was originally written. So it sat for 20 years before Golden Globus got their hands on it and went, God damn, we got to make this film.
God bless the Go-Go Boys, because they are such risk takers and they give us such delicious schlock.
Yeah, it's just sad that the second intended movie to be in color by Akira Kurosawa, because except for his first color film, everything preceding it had been in black and white. This was going to be his second one, and he could.
And ironically, of course, when they actually get to making the movie, it's essentially a black and white movie with splashes of color here and there.
Even the sequences where there's blood involved, it's
very
black.
weird, yeah.
It's black. It's not red.
The only color I can think of was Manny and his vest, and that's it. The helicopter.
The helicopter,
but generally
the
it's
hard
all,
hats.
Yeah, but it's all black or white generally.
Anyway.
Next week, Bruno Mattei.
Who?
He did Jaws 5.
Oh, right.
Hungry, but the ordinary things don't seem to appeal? Then try one of our frozen delicacies. They're taste treats that hit the spot, refreshing and cooling without being too filling, satisfying without being too rich. Give yourself and the whole gang a taste dividend. Select the frozen treat that pleases you. Guess what? Guess what would taste good right now to everyone in the car? Candy. We've got your favorite kind at the concession stand. Come on down and pick out the kinds you want to enjoy during the rest of the show. Be sure to get plenty because everyone likes candy, and our big variety is chosen to please everybody's taste.
Alrighty, now that you know what the premise of the show is, you can settle back and watch with pleasure. Next week, we're going to turn the wheels of the ship over to my friends. Ian and Teresa and Ashley and Brad have all picked one movie, and I have no control over what they're bringing to the table. So, it's Idiots Drive the Ship Month. Next week, Ian is going to be back in the hot seat. He is bringing us Trilogy of Terror. So come back and check that movie out and see what we think about it. In the meantime, please, I want you to send me an email because I'm sad and lonely. thevideonastyproject@gmail.com is the email address. And assuming that you do this, assuming you comply with my wishes, I want you to stay evil.
That's your mama's farthole ranking. The bitch is loud.